mysterious. What's going on, everybody? It's been a busy week. Hope I can get back on the horse and get more of these videos out. Well, today's video, I'm going to be talking about a story that comes out of Tallahassee, Florida. Let's jump right into it. Before we do, though, smash that subscribe button for me if you would. This one comes to us from a man named Boone. He says, I had moved from the Tallahassee area in 1973, and what I'm about to share with you transpired in July of 1969. I was 14 years old at the time. Back then, my dad was a heavy equipment operator involved in housing developments, building construction, demolition, damn near anything else you could think of where a piece of heavy equipment was needed. He could run a crane, a dozer, and anything in between. In the back of our house, my dad always kept several 50-gallon drums in which he put his scrap metal, one for brass, one for copper, another for aluminum, and another for wire. This was all the booty, as he used to call it, that he gathered from job sites. A friend of my father's, Mr. Davis, owned a scrapyard where I worked part-time. It was then when Mr. Davis told me how much more money I could be making in scrapping, and my eyes were open to how much cash was laying around in the garbage and in the form of scrap metal. Now I was too young to drive, but I had a Schwinn bicycle with 3 baskets on it. That's when I decided to begin my secondary career, hunting in trash bins and garbage cans for scrap. The Vietnam War was still going on, and metals were at a premium. In fact, even as a kid, I knew that many guys were stealing radiators from cars and the like. Mr. Davis just turned a blind eye and paid up with cash. He had a small block house in the front of his yard that was buried behind the mountains of metal. That's where a couple of really creepy cats spent every day chopping crap up, so small that nobody would be able to tell what it was when it came into the yard. In other words, they were destroying the evidence. The money was pouring in and out, and it was all cash. I was getting up real early in the morning, making the rounds over the town on my bike. On garbage day, I would hit hundreds and hundreds of residential trash cans collecting metal. I kept a series of wrenches and a hacksaw on my bike to cannibalize anything and everything, including the proverbial kitchen sink. I was having a ball with my little hustle, turning over several $100s a week. In 2 months' time, I'd bought what would be my first car, which was a 1965 Fairline 500 with a 390 and a 4-speed. I paid $1,000 cash for it, and I was going to sit on it until I could drive. Aside from hitting the neighborhood cans, I began to dumpster dive around the area. A lot of people would sneak into businesses and complexes to throw large items into their dumpsters at night when nobody was around. I started to make some major finds climbing in and around these bins, but it was a dirty and nasty business. Sometimes I got more than I bargained for, finding a coon or something else in a dumpster with me upon getting in it. The other thing was, I needed to get in the dumpsters very early in the day because after the sun came up and hit the metal, they were like an oven. You couldn't even touch the metal sides without burning your hands. Now, my dad knew I was responsible at 14. I was already 6 feet tall. Every morning I got up at 4 a.m. and went around and did my rounds. I had learned my lesson several times over just about opening the lid on a garbage dumpster early in the morning. On this particular morning, I was approaching a 3-dumpster compound near the rear of a large trailer park. This set of dumpsters alone usually represented a $5 or $10 hit for me every time I came to them. Now these dumpsters were set on a concrete slab in the dark, up against the woods. I always carried a couple of flashlights with me in case one broke or went dead while I was out diving. It was pretty dark as I was riding up to the site because it was cloudy and there hadn't been a moon. There was a lot of noise coming from one of the dumpsters, and the steel lid was slapping up and down. The first thing that I said to myself was that there was a damn bear inside. I turned and parked my bike about 100 feet away and picked up a couple rocks to throw at the dumpster to scare whatever was in there away. When I chucked the first rock, I hit the bin squarely, which sounded like a sledgehammer hitting the side of a steel drum. As soon as I heard the noise, the metal lid came blowing open. Out from the can, like a jack-in-the-box, jumps this screaming gorilla thing. He flew out, clearing the side of the dumpster in one clean jump. The lid came crashing down behind him. The side of the dumpster was nearly 5 feet tall and maybe 3 feet taller than the can. He was standing next to it, snorting and growling like a wild boar. The noise was so loud that lights started to go on all around from different trailers. A couple of guys actually came out of their front doors. Now I was standing in the dark next to my bike, hoping like hell this monster wasn't going to attack me. But I don't think it had time to realize that I was even there. It turned and darted away into the woods and was gone. It was maybe only a minute later when a man ran over with a flashlight and said to me, "What the hell is going on, young fella?" When I tried to explain what happened, he didn't believe me. I told him that was God's honest truth. He said to me, "There are no big gorillas in Florida or anywhere else. Now get out of here before I call the police." Well, as you can imagine, I left in a hurry and went straight home and tell my dad. He knew that I was not prone to lying, and frankly, even he was having a hard time swallowing what I had to say. Later that day, he and I drove back over there where this thing had jumped out of the dumpster. We walked over to the can as I described to my dad in detail what had happened. As we walked next to the can, we looked down at exactly where I told him the gorilla had landed, and there were huge impressions in the soil next to the concrete slab. They were 2 large, human-like feet. The impressions were about 2 inches into the dirt. As soon as he saw them, his entire demeanor had changed. He looked at me and then into the woods where I told him it had run. I remember him just shaking his head and saying, "What the heck is a gorilla doing over here?" Anyway, we both got back in the truck and went back home. That apparently was all the proof my dad needed. I told him that it didn't look like any other gorilla in pictures I'd ever seen. It being way too tall and wide than anything I'd seen in the zoo, I called it the monster gorilla, and he just shook his head. Well, imagine being a kid rolling up on a dumpster at 4 in the morning in the dark all by yourself, chucking a rock at a dumpster, and that thing jumps out of there. Tallahassee, Florida. Well, I know they're here. And if you've had an encounter with a Bigfoot or anything else mysterious, you know what to do. Shoot me an email at cryptidmysterious@gmail.com, and I'll see y'all in the next one.